When was the last time you achieved something significant? Like you set a goal and you went for it. You had an idea and then you just did it messy, but you achieved something, whether it was a long-term goal, a short-term goal, even something that you're like, oh, I think I'm going to try it. And you do it. And instead of feeling excited or feeling like a sense of achievement and the elation of your goal, like the achieving your goal, that you feel kind of empty. You felt really nothing, or you felt like, okay, what's next? Hi, welcome to the Full Weight of Joy podcast. My name is Tammy, and I'm your host. And in this podcast, my goal is to help you understand why you do what you do. Understand that our thoughts don't have to, that we get to create our thoughts, that we don't have to be slave to our thoughts and to our actions, and that we get to choose these because our thoughts create our life. And that we know that your true identity, your purpose, your zone of genius, your calling, the true fulfillment and impact that you want to make is on the other side of self-awareness. It's understanding why you do what you do, and the patterns that you hold, as well as the how to live authentically, is on the other side of self-awareness. And so today I want to talk about this. I want to dive in a little bit, and this will be a shorter episode. We are 1 week from Christmas. Actually, it'll be less than a week when this plays, when this drops. And you may not even listen to this before Christmas, because I know it seems every year for moms, we have more and more things to do to bring the magic, to make these grand experiences and to build the memories for our families. And so this is one of the things, like, why I wanted to talk about this, because I have a really long to-do list. And when I asked myself, someone asked me, like, what on your to-do list lights you up? And what lights me up is when my kids and my family have a really good experience. And then I took it further. I'm like, okay, what on my list actually leads to that? Does it mean getting them everything on their list? Well, no. I have a teenage daughter. Her list, when she gets everything on her list, she just creates a new list. We're working on gratefulness, but you know what it's like to be 14 and all of the cool things and wanting certain shirts, and not that she wants everything that's expensive, but she just wants a lot. And there's always something that she wants. And so I was like, okay, it's not getting everything done on my to-do list. And I was thinking about it because how many times do we work towards things? And then when we achieve it, when we get it, when we're done, we feel empty. We feel longing. We feel that it left us wanting more. And it's like, what's the point? And I was thinking about this concept because not only do I want my life to have meaning. I want to make an impact, and I don't want to be overwhelmed. I don't want to do a million things this Christmas and miss out on the whole reason for the season. And so, and the same with business. I could work 24/7 and still not achieve everything that I want to achieve. But that's not even the goal. The goal is to be fulfilled, to partner with Christ in your purpose. And when we look at our achievements and they feel empty, it's time to ask ourselves why. Like, what is it that we're wanting? And I know that self-awareness and asking yourself these questions are the true way to find it. Doing something else is not actually the answer. Going for another goal. Like, I am all for goal setting. I'm in Enneagram 1. I am in the doing gut center. I love achieving things. I love checking things off my to-do list. I love making things happen. But I also know that there's a lot of things that I've made happen in my life that really amounted to nothing important. That I did it, and then it's like, oh, great. And I just have more things to do. And so I don't want that for you. And I want you to take this time, this Christmas season, to ask what about what you're doing matters? What fills you up, and why does it fill you up? Because it's not just a matter of, achieving goals and it makes us feel better. It's like, what about that goal, or what is our heart really longing for? And so that's what I wanted to dive into today. And I was thinking, how could I talk about this? How can I share? And growing up, when I lived in Japan, my neighbors had this really pretty bird cage. It was gold, it was vintage antique, and it was very ornate and intricate. And it was gorgeous. And they bought two canaries to put in this bird cage. And for a beginning, it was so pretty, right? On the outside, the cage itself was gorgeous and never lost its luster. But the birds inside of over like the weeks that they had the birds, it would sing a little less. And I was thinking about this when I was thinking about achievement, because on the outside, it looks like these really pretty yellow canaries inside this beautiful gold bird cage. And even though those canaries were in the best bird cage they possibly could be in, it had enough space. They weren't enclosed. It wasn't too tight. They had plenty of food. They were well taken care of. They had people who would come, like the neighbors' kids, their owners who lived there. They would spend time and they would talk to them and they would listen to them sing. But overall, those birds, well, they lost their song. And over weeks, you could just tell that these birds lost the fulfillment that they got from just singing. And then I didn't know it at the time. But even though this beautiful cage and this beautiful home they were in, they were still caged. They were still controlled. The cage may be golden, but it's still a cage. And when your spirit longs to fly, when it longs to fly free, when it longs to explore and find meaning beyond the confines of achievement, that's where the bars of these bird cage, we talk about that. I remember that, but I know those birds didn't fulfill their purpose. And that's where I want to talk to you about, what does your cage look like? How do you know that the things that you're working towards are leaving you wanting, are feeling empty, and not feeling like you are reaching your full potential, that you're not doing what God's called you to do, or you're still, no matter, everything looks great. You have the house, you have the family, you have the job, you have all of these things. You're successful on the outside, and yet on the inside, there's more. And so I wanted to talk about 5 indicators. And some of these are all ones that I've seen in my clients. And some of them are easy to see. And some of them, it's hard to see in yourself. But the first one is external success versus internal fulfillment. We have to have a balance. I do know when you're working on a job, when you have goals, like external success and, achievements are important. But we can't completely discredit internal fulfillment. Now, I'm not saying you quit your job to find or quit mothering because, you're not finding the internal fulfillment you need. No, what it means is it's time to get clear. It's time to step back and ask yourselves, what truly fulfills me? And how can I find it in what I'm doing now? And I know, with parenting, it is hard. I parent 2 teenagers who are definitely pulling away and stretching and kind of, pushing against authority. They're my sweet little kids who used to do what I asked them to do now are like, no, I don't want to. And it's like, well, I didn't give you an option. And so, but how do I find fulfillment in parenting when it's so hard and it's a constant battle? Like in this the phones, it's a constant battle. But I know that the fulfillment is, I see how their character is growing. I also know, and I depend on God for Him to give me the fulfillment because, according to my kids, I'm the worst mom in the world. And so I can't look externally for that. So the external success versus internal fulfillment. So we may look good on paper, but it feels hollow inside. That's one of the signs that you are experiencing this phenomenon, this whole idea, this empty achievement and wanting to, it just feels empty and you need to be fulfilled. You need to fly free and sing your song. Another one is validation dependency. We cannot depend on other people to validate our ideas, our work, yes, again, the whole idea of your boss validates your success by giving you a bonus, or when you have your one-on-ones and your performance reviews, you talk about the achievements you've made. However, needing constant external approval or recognition will leave you wanting, because that's not like, this is where are we working for man, or are we working for God? And are we working towards something that's meaningful? And so it reminds me of this Bible verse, like, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. That's Proverbs 16:3. And then what the other one is, Colossians 3:23-24. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, but not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. This is where we get to step back and find that validation, because we're working for God. So what is he saying? And even if you are a janitor or a baker or a window washer or a nurse or, a CPA, like, it doesn't matter what your job is. Yes, we check off those boxes, we achieve those goals, we have our targets that we have to hit. But when we're looking for fulfillment, it's time to look within, and we see that we're working for the Lord. How can you partner with him in what you're doing? And so the next one is purpose disconnection. You're unable to connect your daily work with a deeper meaning. I have a friend who he's a part owner of a tow truck company. So most of the time you think tow truck is a pretty, it's a blue collar job. You break down, they come and save the day. I mean, I honestly think it's a little heroic. But one of the things that he changed the perspective for me several years ago when I was like, hey, tell me about what you do. And he's like, well, I on the outside, it looks like I'm a tow truck driver. On the inside, he's like, I meet people in their most stressful times, and I get to pour into them. And so this purpose disconnection, if you can't find purpose in what you're doing, and again, you may have to get creative, and you may have to ask God to be like, okay, show me why punching this clock is part of my purpose. What does it allow for you to do? Who are you impacting around you? And so if you're questioning why behind your success, a lot of times it's because the purpose is disconnected from your actions. And so finding a way to bridge that, again, not mirror, bridge it, is one of the things you can do. This is one of them that I know for myself, is the joy deficit. When work feels more mechanical than energizing, when it's more of a dredging through a to-do list, and even when parenting, I can feel this with parenting. I feel this with, even coaching sometimes. I feel like it's an endless, like, I love working with my clients. I love doing this podcast, but there's still a lot of things that I have to do in order to make all this work. I have to edit the podcast. I have to come up with ideas for it. I have to work on the tech side and build email sequences. And, there's a long list of things. And then not to mention all of the legal stuff that I have to do. And it's going to be January, which means that got to renew all of the licensing and all of the things and it's like, again, it is the joy. It sucks the joy right out of it. But when success brings relief rather than excitement, like, you're like, oh, that's done, let's move on to the next thing. That's an example. That's an indicator that there's a joy deficit. And when you have diminished enthusiasm for things that used to light you up, it's time to get clear and see that the fulfillment, the internal fulfillment that you're looking for is lacking. And then the next one, this is one I talk about a lot, is the value misalignment. If what you're doing is not aligning with your core values, it's either figure out how to make it align with your core values, or you're making decisions based on things you should be doing rather than what you get to do or you want to do, or that aligns with what your calling is. When success feels inauthentic or misaligned with your true being, with those priorities, values, and who God called you to be. And then also when the goals that you're achieving don't reflect your personal values, that's an indicator that you have an empty achievement. that these achievements you're going for may not be on the outside wrong. Because I don't want to, I never want to say like, it's time to like quit everything you're doing and start something different. Because I don't believe, I mean, God does do that. Like he told Abraham, pack up your tent and go. And he went. But a lot of times God has us in the right position, but we don't have the right mindset. We don't have the right focus or the right perspective. And so that's what I want to encourage you this season to ask yourself, how can I find more fulfillment in the things that I'm doing? Is success for achievement's sake, for checking the box sake, is that enough for you? And so I just want to give you some solutions. Here's some things that you can do. One is reconnect with your core values. If you have not done your core values, if you have not discovered those, do that. In fact, I think that's so important. Early next year, I will try to find, probably will be February because I already have January mapped out. But let's do an impromptu, let's do a workshop on like discovering your core values. I don't want to say creating your core values because you're discovering them. They're already in you. You just got to pull them up. But let's do that because that centers around everything that we do. When you conduct, do a values assessment, that's what you can do is go through and just, what are your values and how are things not lining up with that? Like, how is your calendar matching the values you say you hold? And next is, well, audit your activities. Like I said, go through your calendar. How many of those things, the things that you would say your top 5 values are, how many things on your calendar match with that or would portray that value? Because that's going to be an indicator for you. So you do that, your life will change. I guarantee it. Let's see. The number 2 one is redefine success matrices. To find success for yourself, one of my favorite things to do is define success, support, all of these words that, we know what the English dictionary tells us, but until you make it personal, until you align it with who you are, how God wired you to be, you won't find that you'll go after the achievements that look good, but they may not fill you up because they're not part of what really matters to you. I was talking about today, I had a call with a lady who, it was interesting because she made a couple comments that were similar to me, where it's money as a goal did not drive me very much. Like it wouldn't get me up in the morning. That wasn't my why behind the why. However, impact was. So when I started having an impact goal versus just a revenue goal, a money goal, because I run a business, I've got to have a revenue goal. I have bills to pay and I have, well, it's a business, right? We have teenagers who want to drive and that costs an arm and a leg. So like I do need money, but saying I want to make $4 million in the next week does not excite me. Now, if I got $4 million or if I made $4 million, sure, that would be fun. But what I needed to do is I needed to switch it around, knowing that my success was based on how many people did I impact? The money follows. When you find the success metrics that work for you, all of the other things that you need fall into place. They will be there as well. So redefine your success metrics. Like create a personal success metric beyond achievement, beyond your to-do list, beyond what other people think. Like find something that drives you. And if you need help discovering what that is, like get on my calendar, let's talk, because that's one of the things that we do early in coaching is what are you wired to do? What excites you? What's your motivation? And what's your core avoidance? Because those two things, your core motivations and core avoidances, will give you a lot of intel on why you do what you do. The next thing is purpose integration. Friend, we have to connect our actions to our purpose daily. Now, I know many of you say, like, I don't even know what my purpose is. It's a lot easier to discover than you think. But we have to understand, we have to connect to a bigger ideal. This is where, like, going back to our core values and understanding what success is to us also lends itself to understanding what our purpose is, what our calling is. And so when we create these impact-focused goals and we align our business decisions with our personal mission, so this is what this bigger purpose is, like your life mission. And so once you create that, it's a whole lot easier to punch the clock. because you know you're doing something for the greater good. There's more fulfillment in it, even if the job itself, but it's like what you get from that job that allows you to lean into your personal mission. A, a joy recovery practice. Now I have on my wrist a choose joy. And I have that and I got it years ago. Actually, it'll be 10 years ago next week that I got this tattoo on my wrist. And it's because the idea of choosing joy, even when things don't scream, be joyful, we get to choose it. So when you look at your calendar, what in your calendar brings you joy? What in your family? I really do enjoy playing board games with my kids. That is joy bringing to me. Now, if you ask my teenagers, I'm not quite sure if that's joy bringing to them. However, when we do it, there's a few games that really get some good laughs. So I know that those do bring joys, but having intentional time together does. So schedule it. So make sure that your schedule, your life has these pockets of joy, like scheduled, or just like make sure it happens. And it's okay. Like if you schedule it, is it still joy? Yes. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. Like I schedule everything because one is I forget a lot now. I used to be able to remember like 20 people's schedules and where they're going when and and no, my mind does not have that anymore. So I have to write things down. But when I incorporate joy into my life and have a joy moment, like whether it's reading a book or watching a movie, I love this time of year. I love watching those cheesy Christmas movies. I love it. And so I actually give myself permission to do it more often. I watch way more TV during the Christmas season than any time throughout the year. Why? Because it brings me joy. I like them. And so just schedule it. Also, create a space for spontaneity and passion projects. Give yourself time to just play with some ideas. That will bring joy. That also, it starts to help you see like, okay, why was this idea that I played around with? What lit me up about this? And it just helps you to bring life back in. It's more than punching a clock. It's more than just checking things off the to-do list or just working on the next goal or target for your work. And finally, this is one of my favorites. This is a self-awareness development. Okay, whether you call it living authentically, whether you call it knowing your true north, where there's gaining clarity, I know that your identity, your calling, your zone of genius, your purpose, your true self is on the inside of self-awareness. They did a study and I think it's a Harvard that did the study, and they asked people and 90% of people said that they believe that they are self-aware. And then when they asked them the questions about it, when they took the survey, and they discovered that 10 to 15% of people are actually self-aware. Do you know what self-awareness means? Do you know what being self-aware is? Because it's a lot more than just knowing how to take care of yourself. It's a lot more than knowing your whole self-care. It's a lot more than understanding what makes you angry or what your triggers or what makes you joyful. It's a lot more than that. And it's so this journey of self-discovery, this journey of understanding your patterns and living authentically and getting out of your own way and understanding how God wired you is such a joyful experience, because you're going to see things in a completely different light. Well, this is one of the things this next year I am going to be focusing on, is understanding, because I see the deficits in self-awareness. I see people who think that they are self-aware. And there's times I thought I was self-aware until I started diving into this checklist of what does it actually mean to be self-aware. So I created this checklist, and this is what I do with a lot of my clients. And in fact, what we're going to do I have a new program coming out in January. It actually is going to start on my birthday, because why not? It's my birthday. I can do what I want to. But it's called the Line and Shine, where we're going to talk about what it takes, the self-awareness. We're going to get this idea of we're going to do a little bit of an Enneagram deep dive, and we're going to talk about communication. And we're going to talk about core values and priorities. So we're going to discover what your top 5 core values and priorities are. We're going to start looking at what is the purpose and impact that you need to make. And not just like, hey, this is what it means, but really it's going to be an intensive group. Like, we're going to do this together. We're going to discover it. We're going to do the hard work. And I use hard in parentheses because our brain fights it. But really, it's the life-giving work that allows you to create boundaries, that allows you to have decision-making frameworks that make decision-making fun and easy and align with who you are. We're going to talk about how to, emotional intelligence and the triggers that get you off kilter. Like, we're going to talk about this. And so if this interests you, if you want to be part of the first cohort for Align and Shine, reach out to me, because the only way to get in right now is by having a phone call. Let's see if it fits for you, if it works for you. But that's going to start at the end of January. And because I know that this whole idea, this discovering your zone of genius, discovering what your purpose and your calling is, will change your life. Don't be one of the 90%. The people who believe that they know themselves, but actually don't know why they do what they do. Be part of the 10 or 15%. In fact, like, that's my goal, is to increase that and let everyone who comes into my world, and even if you're just listening to this podcast, hopefully that it shifts a little bit and you understand yourself a little bit more through asking questions, through redefining terms and defining terms like success and support. And what joy is. Like, how do you define that? Because I guarantee you and I don't define it the same way, but we both have a definition. Do you know what yours is? And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive into that starting in January. It's going to be 8 weeks. It's going to be so much fun. I'm excited about it. So if you want more information, you want to get on that wait list, like get on a call and let's just chat. But more information will be coming out about that soon. And then, it's just this year. What are some of your wins? What are some of the things that from 2024 that has filled your cup? That if you had to give you like the highlight reel for 2024, what would you add? I'd love to know. Like, reach out to me, like DM me some of your highlight reel, like things that really filled you up in 2024. And I want to I'll put them up. Like, if you give me permission to use your name, I will. If not, if you don't want to, that's fine too. I definitely protect your privacy. But I love discovering, like, what fulfilled you, what lit you up. And I'll share mine too. That's one of the things that I've been doing, is really looking back at what have I accomplished? What are some of the goals that I went for? But I realized that midway that were not the right goals, because that happens when you have self-awareness, when you know your zone of genius, and when you understand how God wired you, you start working towards goals. And when you figure out, like, oh, that's not exactly what it needs to be, but this works better. You get to make that shift in the moment. And it's so awesome to do that. But I would love to know, like, where in the last year have you been fulfilled? Is it in parenting? Is it in your work? Is it in your friendship, your relationships, your finances, your spiritual walk? Like, where have you been filled up this year? Like, what intentionally have you worked on? And yeah, DM me on LinkedIn at Tammy Imlay, or on Instagram at Tammy Marie Coaching, and then get on my calendar and let's just talk about it. Like, let's celebrate some of your wins and see what's possible for 2025. All right, with that, friend, choose joy until joy chooses you, and get on my calendar. Let's talk. Let's make 2025 the best year yet. All right, bye for now.